What's going on, everybody? It's TripleCrown24 back today doing another card show recap video. Today's show is going to be in Xenia, Ohio. It took place on Saturday, December 11th, 2021. This one's a little closer to home for me, about a 45-minute hike north to get to Xenia. It's a pretty straight shot up north. Had to battle through some torrential rains at some points in my drive there on a kind of a gloomy Saturday morning, but a warm one at the start. Then it kind of got cold by the time I left the show. And overall, this was definitely up there among my most successful shows of the year. I did not set up at this one, and it is definitely refreshing to just go and buy at these shows as opposed to setting up and kind of having to manage the table while also trying to potentially acquire new inventory. So I'm going to keep the same format as last time. I don't have any show clips to show you guys today. I was covering up my microphone with my thumb when I was recording a couple of clips, and I just wasn't happy with how the quality of those turned out, so opted not to put them in this video. But the point of these is more so to talk about my pickups and review the show. So why don't I go ahead and start with my review? Overall impressions. First of all, I do appreciate everyone who checked out the last video. If you haven't seen it, it was on my trip to Asheville, North Carolina for that show. And I tried this new format out. It seemed to get some positive reviews, so I figured I would roll with it here again. But my overall impression of this show was that it was pretty solid. One of my favorite shows that I've been to locally. I've been to this show once before, and I actually went on a $50 budget. It was back in January 2020, and I did a video on that at the time. In hindsight, when I eventually did move the cards that I got at that time, I ended up doing pretty well for myself, and I think kind of the same thing here. I was able to meet up with a friend of mine here who's local and joins the SGC submission, so that was always nice. It's always cool to kind of meet up with friends and converse with them at the show and kind of walk the show floor with them a bit. Talk to dealers that you know. Being local, you get more familiar faces that you're used to seeing. This show did have a lot of competition. There was a show that was actually closer to where I live, but I haven't really heard too much about it before. I think it's a relatively new show, so I didn't really want to test it out. There was a show up in Canton where the Pro Football Hall of Fame is, monthly show there. There was also a pretty big show in Columbus. It's a weekend show that had a pretty special attraction in terms of its signers, with Bo Jackson appearing and then several current members of the Ohio State football team, including the quarterback C.J. Stroud. Typically, signers aren't going to really dictate the type of people who are coming up to buy cards at the table. A lot of the traffic that comes in from the signers are strictly there for the signers, and maybe one or two kind of straggles over to some of the tables to buy some cards, but they are there to get autographs. At the same time, though, it can potentially draw customer pools from some of the other competing areas. So I thought that this show might be a little bit later today, and it was still fairly busy overall. So that was my overall impression of it. Let's go ahead and move to the pickups. So I have 4 stacks to kind of show you, 4 little bundles here. And I am actually going to start by talking about the one that got away. One of the first cards that I looked at was in the auxiliary building. So this is at a fairground where you have these different buildings that are kind of, they're somewhat connected by these like little awnings. So there's a little auxiliary building that has, it's the same size as the other one, except for they're not using the full thing. It's kind of like your overflow. So there's like 15 to 20 dealers in there. And I started in there because it wasn't as crowded, and it was still near the start of the show. So I figured that area wouldn't have been as picked over. So I was going to go check out the areas where maybe there wasn't as much foot traffic. And there was some really nice stuff among those 20 tables. I mean, there was some awesome cards in there. One of which was a Pistol Pete rookie. It was a PSA 3. Really beautiful example of the card. It was offered to me for a pretty fair price. I was going to go back and ask for a trade. I came back about 15 minutes later and it was gone. So sometimes that happens. Got to shake it off. And I did. I was able to go to the neighboring table and I went through the dollar boxes, but I did pick this up It's a 1974 Topps Terry Bradshaw and a PSA 5, somewhat recently graded based on the flip there, starting with 5 on the cert number. I did not pay sticker price on anything, just because I like to be able to bundle things, and you'll see here that all my purchases or trades were for multiple cards, which kind of gave me that flexibility. So I was able to get this, and this helped offset the cost of some of my dollar box cards. A slabbed Hall of Famer Topps Playing Days card. I don't think you can go wrong with that for less than the cost of what slabbing was pre-boom in the hobby with PSA. So this was a little stack I put together from the dollar box. This ended up being a 75-cent box based on the bulk deal that I was able to work out. So what really caught my eye first looking at this box from an overhead, sometimes there's like cards that are flipped up so you can kind of see something. And there were some of these 2009 Topps Chrome football refractors. So I figured I would go ahead and take a look. You know, you never know. Maybe you'd find a Brady in there. Maybe you find a Stafford rookie in there, or Rodgers or someone else. Are the odds of that happening very likely? No, it's not at all. But maybe you find some decent players, and perhaps there's some parallels. And I did find 2 reds. It's Kevin Smith and Kevin Boss. So not the biggest names on the checklist, but they are out of 25. And for what essentially became 75 cents, I'll take that any day of the week. Just good stuff for the store. So yeah, Brandon Jacobs here on the copper, same set out of 649. And then just some stuff that caught my eye that I know people really like to see in the store. So you have a Brady-based optic there. We'll always pick up Brady chromium-based cards for $1 whenever I see them. Whoops. Jonathan Taylor kind of slipping by me there. Black Class 2 Griffey, just can't go wrong there. Some numbered stuff, including this Carlton Gold out of 50. Shout out to all the Philly fans out there. Some more. You can see kind of the players that I was targeting in the box. Here's a 2010 McCoy. Brandon McKay out of 50. A couple of these autographs, I do have a purpose for some of these, so I will pick them up if they are $1 or less, just because I have a lot of different uses for them. And I've talked about that in videos before. In fact, I should have a video sometime next week discussing something I did with some of those recently. Nice 70 Topps high number here in pretty decent shape. Just these high numbers, if I see them cheap, I'll grab them. They're just usually not cheap. That's the problem. Like I said, autographs never can go wrong. And then just some stuff that's lower numbered. Nice little sweater here, rookie sweaters. Broncos dual rookie. A couple more autographs there. A relic card. Neville Gallimore rookie to 35. Shout out to Mike. Canadian cards. Kyler, Rookie of the Year contenders, the Rookie of the Year insert on Kyler. Wander, camo, the nice high number Mirashal from 72 Topps. So overall, just a really healthy stack. I was very happy. A good start to the day, of course. Getting nice little handful from the dollar box. So then I went to a dealer who had some Griffey inserts that were slabbed up. I was kind of interested in some of them. Some of them were they were like 8s and 9s on some cards that are a little tougher, and they seemed fairly reasonably priced. I didn't think he was too far off, so I kind of investigated a little bit more to see what he had, digging through his dollar boxes. I ended up pulling 5 cards out. This is a card I don't remember the last time I saw one of these, but I thought it was unique, so I picked it up. It's a Tim Tebow Patriots card. I know he had a few Jets cards, but I don't really remember him having too many with the Patriots, so I just grabbed that because I thought it was interesting. Again, Brady optic for $1, I'll take that. And then a couple of autographs, including Kyle Wright. I mean, I don't think he's reached his full potential at this point in time, but definitely not a guy who I would expect to find in a dollar box. And then this one is extremely interesting. So this, you might think, looks a little bit weird if you're familiar with 2017 Heritage. And I believe this is a flip stock. The reason why you can't feel this, of course, because it's behind the screen here, but the front of this card kind of feels like what the back would, and vice versa. The back kind of feels like the front. However, in 17, they did have what's called these bright yellow variations. There's a print run of 25 on them. So I don't know which one this is. Now, you can usually use the code at the bottom, but they are the same for the base, the bright yellow, and the flip stock. So I don't know exactly which this is. I'm going to have to consult some heritage experts out there, but any of you guys who might know, I would be very happy to hear your feedback in the comments down below. Like I said, those cards are not numbered. They just have a stated print run. So, but for $1, I figured I'd go ahead and take the gamble that it was a flip stock, which if it is, those have a print run of 5. So card that has a print run of 5 for $1, I'll take that from a very popular set building product. I ended up making a partial cash, partial trade to get that little dollar box stack along with these 2 slabbed cards here. So I gave up my cash as well as a Joe Adele Mosaic autograph. I just got back in my SGC order, as well as a Zion that I got back in the SGC order as well. First one up here is this Griffey, and I ended up evaluating this card at about $5 is what I would quote unquote have into it, based on what I traded away and kind of breaking down the values on everything. It's difficult to kind of assign those things when you do partial cash, partial trade, but that's kind of what I came away with. So for essentially $5 from what I determined for a Griffey slab, I will take that any day of the week. And then this was one that really caught my eye along with the Griffies. Was a 71 Topps Clemente, a PSA 4 holder. Corners on this one are pretty typical for a 71. It does have a little small fisheye on the right edge, but it is, all things considered, decently centered for a 71. These are just incredibly tough, especially on the high numbers, to find in good shape. And if you do find them, you're going to have to pay up. So this was a really nice example of this card. And for the price, for the condition, I thought it was more than fair. So I went ahead and picked it up. So the thing about vintage is that it's I think there's this misconception that a lot of vintage prices are kind of set, and it may turn away some people from it because they think it might be harder to get a good deal, which in some senses it is harder to get a good deal on certain vintage cards, especially if people really value them. I think that's more so an issue with raw vintage. It really just depends on where you go, but there's so many, when you're looking at PSA 4s, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that this card could be a PSA 4. So you really have to just kind of find what works for you, you know, what is most important for you in a card. So that was kind of the mindset with that one. All right, moving along. This one was a strict no cash involved trade, which usually cash is involved in a lot of the deals that I do, either going in or going out, or coming out. Coming in or going out, easy for me to say. This one was a straight up trade, and I was very happy with how this one went down. If you guys remember my collection tips video from, I think it's probably about 2 weeks ago, I had the pink Hyper Luca slab on the PSA 10. I ended up departing with that one in this trade, as well as my Zion that I picked up last weekend at the Asheville show, the Astro rookie from Revolution. So I was able to acquire these 8 cards. This first one was one that jumped out to me. I'm going to take it out of the team bag here so you can get a better look at it. Player era card here of Brooks Robinson. It is with the card authentication there, so it doesn't just say trading card on it, which I do like. Personally, when I do send in stuff to get slabbed with Garrett at Slab City Card Cutter, I usually opt to just get the basic one that says trading card. But I definitely appreciate those who spend the extra few bucks to get it authenticated. This one also has an auto grade with it. It's an auto grade 9, but this is a really nice, big, bold Brooks Robinson signature. It's probably the biggest and boldest signature of his I have ever had. So when I saw this one, it jumped out right away. And I thought the price on it was fair, but I wanted to bundle because I saw some things that really caught my eye. And this guy had a absolutely loaded Vlad Jr. Showcase, pretty much like any card from 2020 Heritage you could think of, and a lot of cool rare stuff as well. So I was kind of going through that, and he had definitely very reasonable prices on a lot of stuff. So we talked for quite a bit, just kind of shooting the bull and talking about his cards, just kind of asking him questions about the Vlad Guerrero cards. One of the ones I definitely wanted to involve in the deal was this one. It's the 3D motion. So this was the second piece of the deal. So I was able to add that. And these two were in the showcase. And we're trying to kind of piece together a few things. And when we got the Zion involved, I saw these two in the showcase and I asked to get these in there. And thankfully we did. Two of the regular blue ink real one autographs from Heritage. This one here, the 2020 version, and then this year's 2021 version. Just really cool to get those. Nice signatures. He did have a red ink. I was interested in it, but for some reason the red marker that Vlad was using, it looked like it was a little bit streaky. It didn't really pop as much as I love the red inks from Heritage. I just thought, I'd probably rather just have the two blues because I thought the signatures on these were pretty nice. They definitely stand out a little bit more than the red did. So I was able to involve that in the deal. And then some on-demand stuff I was really interested in. First one here from the first year of Dynamic Duels. I love this card. It's Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Vlad Guerrero Sr. there with the Sky Dome Rogers Center in the background. At least it looks like the black and white photo with the home plate perspective. Just awesome looking card. And this is from Vlad's rookie year. One of those on-demand sets that's actually fairly short printed, all things considered, compared to some of the other ones out there. So a couple of these Montgomery clubs, I will look these over. They are fairly decently centered. This one's a little off top to bottom, but I'll take a look at these as potential grading candidates at some point down the road. I was just happy to get them raw, really. I wasn't going to look them over there, but this was the one that really stood out to me. It's the ringside, also Montgomery Club card here. So this is the one I really wanted to get alongside the 3D. So super stoked to get that one involved. So those 8 cards for my Zion and my Luka. I was just really, really thrilled with how the deal worked out. I hope that the dealer was as well. It was good talking with them. So it's good talking with all these dealers. I had a lot of pleasant interactions today. One of which actually brings me to the final deal of the day. And this dealer and I probably talked for a combined hour plus from the 2 stints I was at his table. I brought cards with me to trade or sell. It's a lot of people did that today. And one of the cards that really stood out to him was my Brady Genesis. You guys might have seen that card. I got it at Trade Night with Card Collector 2 from a guy who I had a great conversation with there back before the season started. So I've had it for, I think it's been in my store for over 100 days is what it said when I went to go pull it down today. And I ended up trading it away today. I also had to add a little bit of cash to get these 2 cards, but overall I was satisfied with it. The Genesis have a little bit of a higher print run to them than what I initially thought when I picked up the Brady. And that didn't detract me from the card. I still love the Genesis. I think they look awesome. But I was definitely, when I found that out a couple weeks ago, willing to kind of loosen my leash on the card and loosen my grip on it to potentially make it a little bit more available. And today, this guy was a big Brady fan. He had some really nice stuff, and I picked out these 2 cards. So first one up here is a classic Johnny Bench rookie PSA 4. Very well centered for this card. It was he had 2 4s, 2 5s, and a 3.5. And the only one that had sold by the time I came back around was one of the 5s. But I thought the 4s were better centered than the 5s. Centering is kind of my thing. That's what I look for, number 1, when I'm looking at a card. So I went with this one here. It was also a little bit better centered on the back. Not that that matters too much, but it is a nice little bonus. One thing to note about this one here, see if you can spot anything wrong with it. Give you a few seconds. 3, 2, 1. I'll read this line of text. Johnny impressed the... Oh, wait a minute. That's not the. That's TNE. So this is a error that was corrected, but these errors are a little bit tougher to find out there. So this guy did know it was an error, but I wanted to make sure I got the error version as well. I thought this one was just slightly nicer than the non-error version, but they were both very nice examples of the cards. So I went ahead and got this in there. I'm going to set this right here. And there was one more piece, and I know I showed this to one of the Philly fans out there already, Maiko. I'm sure the other ones out there who may be watching this will have some appreciation for this one. It is a 2018 Topps Transcendent Collection Bryce Harper 1983 patch auto, 1/1 framed auto. PSA DNA certified, Gem Mint 10 on the card grade, 9 on the auto grade. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there are familiar with how Transcendent works, but it is this really high-end product, $30,000. If you haven't seen it before, it's primarily a group break product. Unless you're Phil Hughes, you're probably not opening these up for yourself. It is largely designed for group breaks. So there is a invitation to go to the VIP party. There is a base autograph set that's usually divided up into different hits for people. There's also like a base set of these framed cards. And then there are your box toppers. And for the 2018 one, being that they did the 1983 promotions, this year they had the 1/1 patch auto 83 design. So each of the 83 boxes of Transcendent produced had one player on the checklist, and all the cards were 1/1. So one of them that came out happened to be this one right here with Bryce Harper with the camo jersey patch there. And you can see, I think the reason why it's a 9 auto grade is because he kind of went outside the border of the card, but this is a pretty nice Harper signature. It's got more detail to it than some of his earlier stuff where it's just kind of a BH. I have a ball that's like that where it's just BH. So I do like what Harper has done with his signature in recent years. One unfortunate thing about this I did not notice till after I got it is that it does have a little small chip there in the case. And also with it too, this doesn't bother me too much, but it kind of stands out a little bit. You can kind of see there, it looks like the corners of this are kind of pressed up against the slab. It is a thicker slab to hold these cards, and it was fairly recently graded based on the cert number. I don't know, it just seems like it could have been put in a little bit of a thicker holder if it was available, but I may look at possibly getting this reholdered. It just kind of depends. Do I want to put the money into that and also send it off, especially right now during the holidays with how crazy the postal system is? Probably will just keep it as it is, but it is something that is on the table for me. And to get this card, it was one that jumped out to me right away, and I definitely wanted to try to work out a deal for it. So I got this and couldn't be happier. So the cards that you saw today will be up in the store by the time that you see this video, most likely. Some of the dollar box stuff, it may take me a little bit while to get up there, but that was the pickups. I know that, again, this was a long form portion of the pickups. If you guys don't really like this format, I can change to a shorter format, but I did get a lot of good feedback from people last time around, both publicly in the comments and privately from those who watched the video, who told me that they really liked to hear the insights behind the show. So I'll keep doing it until people don't like it. So let's go ahead and move into just more so review stuff. What was hot and what was not. So hot stuff. Cincy is we're kind of a basic town in terms of our card interests. There's a lot of interest in local players. So you think about the two professional teams that we have here for baseball and football, the Reds and Bengals respectively, who are the hot players for those teams. Well, a lot of interest today in Jonathan India, a lot of interest today in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Probably no surprise there. Outside of those guys, not being set up, I didn't get as good of a pulse as what I normally do because people aren't coming up asking me about things, but just seeing how people are interacting and what people are walking around with. Your usual suspects. A lot of interest in Brady. That was probably the name I heard the most often, Tom Brady. Saw a lot of Tom Brady cards out there. Your young guys in baseball. Baseball is definitely the top sport there today. I saw a lot of baseball in the showcases. But a lot of the young guys, Acuna, Soto, Tatis, Vlad, Ohtani. Pick your favorite rookie from the last 5 years. They were pretty much asked about today. Basketball, Curry was really the big one, I would say there. Who was not hot? Basketball, Zion and Luka, which was interesting because I actually moved all the cards that I brought with me today in trades that were Zion or Luka. And a lot of people were kind of talking them down, but a lot of people were also kind of looking to quote unquote buy the dip on them as well. So maybe that was a bit strategic on their part. I'm not 100% sure, but there was definitely concern with those guys. But I think that concern kind of disguised a lot of people having an opportunistic mindset to maybe pick up some of those Zion or Luka cards that they could not afford earlier this year at a price that was more so within their wheelhouse. So I thought that was very interesting. Outside of that, we are in the heart of football season, and besides Jamar Chase, because he is a local interest, and then Mac Jones, because, well, he is Mac Jones. Not too much that I heard in terms of the big rookies. Not too many people talking about Trevor Lawrence. Not too many people talking about Zach Wilson. Even Justin Fields, he's somewhat local, being over at Ohio State. It's about an hour away from Xenia. But not too much interest in Fields as well. So interesting to kind of see that play out. Going over the show floor, it was a very healthy mix once again. Not as much TCG stuff. The people who had Pokemon, for the most part, it was just sealed wax. There was a lot of sealed wax at this show, both hobby and retail wax. But I definitely know where all the retail wax in Cincinnati has been going to, which is weird because a lot of the stores around here still have like the limits in place where they're still not carrying product. So I really don't know where these people are getting this wax from, because I don't really think a lot of them have distributor products, or distributor contracts based on the stuff that they have. Some of the guys who have hobby stuff, I'm sure they do get allocations. But a lot of the guys who have the retail wax, I don't know where they're finding it, because I'm not finding it in most places that I'm going to still when I'm going to pick up groceries or whatever the case may be. Outside of that, like I said, it was very baseball heavy. A lot of the football and basketball stuff was just really high end. If you're looking for lower end stuff outside of local interest with the Reds and the Bengals, there wasn't too much of it. There were some decent dollar boxes I found for sure, and I heard some people talking about some of them as well. But there were a couple of dollar boxes as well that probably should not have been dollar boxes. Let's just put it that way. So that's kind of what the show floor consisted of. But a lot more sealed wax than what I've seen in some of the recent shows, and a lot more lower end raw vintage as well, which I didn't see too much of last weekend in Asheville. Want to wrap up the show today with the takeaway sandwich. Of course, going to give one thing I liked, one thing I wasn't too keen on, and then one thing I liked to kind of round out the show and tell you guys what I thought about it. So one thing I liked, my favorite part of doing this shows is not buying or selling, it is trading. Even if the trading involves cash, whether that cash is being given up by me or being received by me. At the end of the day, these are trading cards. I mean, that's what it boils down to. That's where the hobby originated, is trading cards. And to make trades and not have to kind of put money into it, just using what you already have, is a ton of fun. And you get a lot of insights into the cards too, people kind of telling the stories behind certain cards and just learning about them. And I think the intimate nature of trading, just being able to establish that rapport with someone and really kind of pick their mind about what they're thinking, it's a very rewarding experience. It's why I love going to trade nights. It's why I love when people bring up stuff to possibly trade to me at shows as well. Overall, it's a fun time. So a lot of that going on, not just on my end. I know I spoke about a lot of my trades today, but also a lot of stuff that I was able to watch other people make transactions. And it's just kind of fun to watch and see people go back and forth and to learn from those people, because you can always learn something from someone. So that was very cool to see. Something I didn't like. This is one instance, and this is just I'm laughing about it now because it's really all you can do about it. Towards the start of the show, I was going through the dollar box that I mentioned to you earlier, where I picked out that stack of about 40 cards. The dealer next to me has this table where he has value boxes as well. But the one on the far left isn't really marked with prices. It's actually just a box for kids to go through and to pick out some cards for free. This guy came up and starts going through it, and he didn't know that it was. He asked the dealer, what is the prices on this stuff? I guess he didn't see that it was a kid's box. I personally didn't see it either. I didn't really look to see if it was marked as such, but the dealer tells him it's a kid's box, but if he wants to pick out a few things, go ahead. He's not going to stop him. I'm watching this guy, and I'm hearing the dealer say, like, try to leave this or try to leave that. And he's saying it over and over. So I'm looking at this guy's stack, and he's pulling out like all the lower numbered stuff that was put in there, all of the like the parallels and the space superstars, like the stuff that would be really cool for kids to be able to get in a box that was designed for kids to pick out a few cards. And the dealer was nice enough to still let this grown man come up and pick out cards for himself and he said to pick out a few. If the dealer had told me that it was a kid's box, personally, I would have just left it alone. Maybe that's just me. I don't know what people's thoughts on that would be, but to me, just kind of the guy had to actually cut him off because this guy just kept going and like picking out like anything that had any kind of stuff. And it was all free too, but it was meant for the kids. And I don't know, that just to me was, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. I'll just put it out there. Let's move to something positive. I just wanted to share that story. Something positive to kind of wrap up the show is that I did see a lot of dealers willing to wheel and deal. And this somewhat ties into the trading. I did say there were some dealers who were kind of stuck on early spring prices, but there were also a lot who were there motivated to sell. Now, it is before the holidays, and December shows are typically slow. Personally, I've never really had a really strong December show selling. But dealers were willing to cut you a deal, and they were willing to kind of go that extra mile and bundle things with you to make those sales happen. That speaks a lot to me. That's something that I try to do as a dealer whenever I can. So it was really cool to see. There wasn't as many dealers who were really getting caught up on the value of certain things and worrying about losing out on $5 to $10. They would rather make the sale. Maybe that speaks to the fact that they weren't having a good show and they were more willing to let loose. But my general consensus and kind of feel from it was that was not really the case. It was just people who were looking to make sales. They were motivated to make sales. And that's ultimately what buyers are coming there to do. They're coming there to buy cards, and that's what the dealers are coming there to do. They're coming there to sell cards. So when those things align and both parties can accomplish their goals, I think that's really only a good thing for all involved. So that was the Xenia show in about 30 minutes. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this recap video. Let me know what you think of the pickups down below. What was your favorite thing I showed off? And if you went to a card show in the month of December, we'd love to hear about your experience as well. Till then, take care, stay safe, be kind.